classic. Flashing Red and Anthony Butter going for the front. It's Flashing Red. It's an Australian victory. It's an Australian Cornella. They've won it. And a good win for Flashing Red from...
In 2006, Flashing Red had taken the Butt brothers to an emotional New Zealand Cup win on their home track. 12 months later, the same team returned to defend harness racing's Holy Grail.
And of course, the next year's Cup, completely different build-up towards it. I want to talk to you about this because you'd won the size stakes with Tribute, and David Earnshaw, who worked for the stable and is a pretty renowned farrier as well, he drove Tribute to win the Flying Stakes, I think it was, at long odds. And there was some trepidation about whether you might be jumping off Flashing Red to get on him. Talk me through that.
Yeah, I think it was more Farrell. I think we had Farrell in the race as well. Yeah. And no, I was probably never going to drive Tribute because you couldn't do that to David. You know, he had driven him all season, driven him well. But it was more Farrell. We had Farrell and she was going really good, but she was really bad to get away from the stand. And Flash wasn't going any good. And yeah, for a week we tossed up. And in the finish, the only reason that convinced me to drive Flashing Red was that there's a big chance Farrell's going to miss away anyway. So yeah, had no confidence. You know, Flash he'd come back the next year a different horse. He had a joint that was annoying him, and we couldn't get weight on him. He was just he just wasn't going any good. And
he was 15 behind.
Yep, and we took him to Ashburton in the Flying Stakes, and he went average. And so we said to Tim, you know, we just talked about it. We said we've got to do something different. So I started taking him to the beach. I took him to the beach every day between Ashburton and the Cup. He'd never seen the track. And because of the way he raced, he had to be very fit. So we had to keep working him, but we just had to, you know, work on his mind basically, and his body because he was getting old. And yeah, I was never confident. I remember getting in the car, going to the race, and I said, shit, I'm not as confident this year as I was last year. But yeah, yes. And even when I went, it was a funny race. He was 15. I think he even scrambled away for a few strides.
Stand by. Tapes are back. And they're off and racing. He began a little bit slowly, Monkey King, but okay. Four Reel's gone for a gallop, and Awesome Armbro's up in the air after the start. So a sensation there. Awesome Armbro galloped his way right out to the back door, and there's another one behind him. That is Four Reel, who's tailed out, and Itzella was also slow to begin. I was
back, and they were running up front, and I thought as soon as they ease, I'll go. But they just never really eased, and it was windy. And in the finish, I thought, oh, I'm not going to get anything anyway. So I'll go, and so I used 3 wide the last mile, I think.
I remember this because I was standing out on the track and David was driving Tribute. And I can recall you turning around, not once, but about 3 times, telling him to get on your back, I'll give you the card home. Am I right? That's my recollection of it anyway.
That could be against the rules, Greg.
But you know what I mean. You obviously, you've just told us then, you thought, well, I'm not going to get any of this, so I might as well get going and at least give the stablemate some sort of hope.
Well, it could have been a little bit better.
Yeah,
and that was the same thing. And I was lucky that Stephen Reid was driving Monkey King, and he got pushed out at the 600, and he went, because Tribute was following me and Monkey King was following Tribute. So he went, and then Tribute went, and I think when Tribute put off my back, I thought, what the hell is he pulling off my back for? Because Flashing Red's not going to stop, but he was flushed out by Monkey King. Yeah, and they come around and put probably a length on him, and I just knuckled down, and you know, Flashing Red, the more you tapped him with the whip, the better, the more he, and it wasn't that he went any quicker, just that they stopped, you know, their runs peaked, and I could sort of sense 100 out. I thought, shit, I'm a chance of getting them again, and yeah, amazing performance, yeah.
Here comes Monkey King right down the outside. It's Bailey's Dream. Monkey King starting to rattle down the outside. Tribute's right there in the middle. Monkey King got to the lead. The mighty Monkey in front. Flashing Red's coming back on the inside. Tribute in the middle. They go to the line. Flashing Red. What a win. The 10-year-old's won it. He's a champion. No doubt about that. He's been a superstar on the Grand Circuit and the Derby scene from 3, and here he is at 10. He's won his 2nd New Zealand Cup.
Terrific staying performance, and of course he won an Auckland Cup and what was then a New Zealand record as well, and he smashed them that night too. Gee, he was a great stayer.
Yeah, he was. It was Auckland Cup night, he drew 1, and I knew he was probably going to get crossed, and I thought, I'm just going to come off anyway, you know, take the consequences later. But I ended up getting off pretty good at the first bend, and after that, you know, he worked around on the front, and he was too good for them.
Down the straight, it's Flashing Red and Anthony Butt. Classic Cullen's only a length and a half away. They're followed by Awesome Armbro, Monkey King, and Win For You. Flashing Red's digging deep, the favourite classic Cullen can't reach it on the outside. Flashing red in front. Flashing red got the cup.
He has obliterated, smashed, destroyed, exploded, nuclear weaponed the national record. This is a performance you'll talk about in 20 years' time. He smashed the national record by nearly 2 seconds. And it has stood.
This is a pacing version of what Lyle Creek did to his rivals, isn't it?
Absolutely unbelievable.
Terrific horse at that stage of your career, and you know, to win back-to-back New Zealand Cups, not many drivers have done that.
No, and as I said, he come out of the blue, you know, and as I said, that, you know, horse win 2 New Zealand Cups at an Auckland Cup all in a 12-month period was, you know, not easy to do.
But his ability to handle pressure has become, well, legendary in terms around those big races, because he does things in those races that most people don't expect him to do.
That's right. He's level-headed and he's a thinker, isn't it? And he's intelligent, which, I mean, I don't know where
did that come from?
I don't know where he gets that from, but yeah, it's probably Dad, my dad.
Anthony, as your career's gone on, there's been times when I've thought, well, how did he come up with that? You've done things on the track that nobody expects you to do, or even talking to you pre-race, you won't let on what you're going to do. That's been part of the reason why you've had some unreal success. Yeah,
probably, Greg. I'm a great thinker, you know, leading into the big races. I do a lot of thinking about them and study, and I'm not hung up on form too much, but, you know, I obviously definitely think about them and think of different scenarios, and one of the great things I used to do, or I still do, you know, especially in the big races, I'd picture myself driving every horse. You know, during the week, I think if I was driving the number 1, I'd do this, or number 2, I'll do that. And that way, when things happen, you sort of had a pretty good idea what they were going to do. And I was never scared, you know, especially later on when I had a bit of experience and had a bit of confidence to do things. I wasn't scared to do something out of the ordinary. So, you know, probably won me some good races and things like that. But that comes with experience and confidence. And as I said, you know, before with Blossom Lady, I probably underdrove her, whereas later in life I had the confidence to, you know, do what I wanted to do.
Here we go for the Christchurch Casino, the great race. They're racing. Caribbean Blaster galloped off the inside and Gold Ace came out in a gallop as well. Auckland Reactor stepped absolutely beautifully, but Fly Like an Eagle did not. He'll pace, but he ends up back with Auckland Reactor, and Gold Ace missed the start by 10 lengths.
One great race that stands out, and an example of what I'm trying to describe here, was Marseille when he led the Cup, when Terra to Love came round and everyone thought, oh, Anthony will just hand to that, and I remember you going like this at the winning post, and that was an example of you know, doing something that nobody expected.
Yeah, it was actually a little bit funny because I was actually going to let him go, but I just thought I'd make him work for 100 metres, and I didn't want to hand the front to him. I thought if I hand the front to him, I'm handing him the race, and I was going to let him go. But Ricky, I don't know if I bluffed him or what, but I clicked up and he pulled back.
Marseille's gone to the lead and Anthony Butt not over keen to hand up to Terra to Love. Ricky looked at Anthony and Anthony won't give the lead away.
It nearly won me the race, you know. And
he went great, Marseille.
Yeah, he went great, yeah. So things like that, you know, there's a lot of bluff in this game. You've got to try and outthink the other drivers, and so yeah, that was one of the occasions. It didn't come off, but it nearly did.
Marseille's in front, half a length. Here's Terra to Love again. Sushi, Terra to Love comes at them. Ricky May, you are simply divine. Terra to Love won the Cup. Behind you, Tommy, who came with him in a photo for third.
Anthony, in terms of New Zealand drivers and arch rivals, I suppose, there's a few.
Yeah, you know, I've been very lucky, Greg, to drive against some of the, you know, the greats. And as I said before, like Peter Wolfenton was just finishing when I started, and then Tony sort of took over, Tony and Morris, and, you know, they ruled the roost for a lot of years. And, you know, had a great relationship with them, you know, especially Tony. Like, I remember one of the first trips I ever went to Hutt Park. I was, you know, I think in my first season driving, I'd only been driving a couple of months, and Tony, he had some, you know, double ups, and he got me on one. It was one of Brian Notman's, and it won, and, you know, and so it was pretty special for a...
You don't forget that sort of thing, do you?
And, you know, we've been great mates for, you know, all our lives. He's been a great competitor, and been very hard to beat, you know, a lot of times. But you know, we've, you know, he's been the benchmark and one of the guys, you know, the guy I've probably always looked up to. But he, especially, you know, that golden era he had with, you know, Chris Advance and Choke and Luxury Liner, and you know, I was driving the ones behind him trying to catch him. So he never seemed to make a mistake in the big races, and he was, you know, great to drive against too. You know, he's very fair and just a great guy.
And did you ever model yourself on anyone, or have you always been your own man in terms of your driving style?
Well, probably Pete Jones, really. Like when I was young, Pete was a whiz kid, and obviously he was working for Derek, and you know, obviously took a close interest in all what he was driving, and yeah, so probably him more than anyone, you know, younger days, and then, but you know, same old thing. Once you're out on the track, you're on your own, so you got to do your best. So, but no, Pete was, you know, one I always looked up to, and you know, he's a big help to me early in my career as well. You know, he was stable driver for Derek when I started, but he would quite often, if he had another drive, you know, he'd drive the outside one and let me drive the stable runner, and then he got me quite a lot of outside drives as well. You know, with the ones that he couldn't drive, he'd put a good word in for me. So you know, he's a big help.
In many ways, look, you'd never say it's a wasted talent. He won a couple of New Zealand Cups, and then along came Mark as well. So it was you and then Mark, and he did step aside for both of you. But he was a rare talent in the sulky. Yeah,
he was as good as anyone, especially in the big. You know, he had a great record in the big races. So yeah, as I said, if I modelled myself on anyone early days, it was probably him, especially his demeanour. You know, before big races, and he never seemed to get flustered and never seemed to make any mistakes, and you know, he won a lot of big races.
Here's Bo Rana down the outside has got up Bruce, and he has been headed off, and Bo Rana's going away, and Almada's coming with him, and Royden Glenn is flying home, but Bo Rana's won the 1985 Toyota New Zealand Cup.
Does it irk you that you never won a drivers' premiership, or in reality when you're up against Hurley and McKendry, and there were more race meetings that they dominated in the north than you could in the south because of some of the South Island drivers and the quality of them. Is it something that you're thinking, oh, I wish I'd won one of them?
Oh, it doesn't really worry me. No, I would love to have won one, obviously, but no, I sort of, early days, I sort of, you know, wanted to concentrate on the big races and the good horses, and so that took you away from a lot of the small meetings, but I wouldn't change that in a heartbeat. But no, never really. 1 year I was in a position to win it. I think it was when the Dominions were in New Zealand 1 year.
2003 it was.
Yeah. And I didn't have to travel so much to Aussie, and I think I led till about Easter, but I just ran out of petrol and
out of horsepower.
Yeah, I think Peter Ferguson might have won it that year, and it was probably a winnable year. But again, I've never been one to sort of chase the drives or ring up for drives, so I wasn't probably proactive enough to do it. But yeah, it would have been nice, but no, it doesn't worry me.
Yeah, I think you had about 84, which is still well, now when you compare it to Dexter and Blair, I suppose it's not, but you know what I mean. Like that was a fair old number to get, because there wasn't the race meetings even then.
No, and as I said, I never used to do a lot of travelling. Like I never used to go down south, or very rarely went to Forbury. So things like that, and you know, looking back, I should have given it a shot one year, but you know, you always had other priorities, and I always found that if you get on a good horse, stick with it, and don't give anyone else a chance to get on. So you know, I'd be happy to go to Auckland to drive one good horse and miss 10 drives at Addington, sort of thing. But you know, it always paid off in the long run.
Wonderful drivers in the Canterbury region as well. It's so competitive.
Yeah, it is. You know, I always said the statement. You always say, you check the colours in the driver's room. You wouldn't care who picked them up. But you know, Mike and Colin were great when I was young. You know, especially and Pete Jones. They said they probably changed the psyche of people, you know, to give the young drivers a go, and so that sort of paved the way for us, made it easier, and then and as you said, Ricky's been great. He's just got better and better and better as he's got older, and and then you know, great drivers, you know, the Raleigh boys, people like that. You know, there's so many drivers, you know, just below the top rung that you'd be happy to put on any day of the week. John Hayes, another one, and you know, the list goes on and on.
They race round the home turn, Natural Talker, 230 to go. Up on the outside of it, Tartan Lady undercover is going to have to angle out 3 wide. Love You, Lindy Lou, further back to Golden Charm, Natural Talker, Tartan Lady. Here comes Undercover Lover, and she's swept up on the outside, and she's sprinting past Tartan Lady by a head.
Given some really good female paces, probably outside of Blossom Lady, as an age group pacer, none better than Undercover Lover.
Yeah, she was fantastic. You know, it was a funny story. I was going to the Dominions in I think think Adelaide that year, and Sid Brown rang me up and said, I've got this really good 2-year-old filly I like. Have you got anything in the 2-year-old filly ranks? I said, no, I got nothing this year, I don't think. He said, oh, would you drive it for the year? And I said, yep, good as gold. So I went to the end of Dominions, and I was staying with Ricky May because we were both driving Kipros's horses, and just, you know, over a beer one night, he had in passing said that, oh, Graham Pearson's got a really nice filly, goes really good, and Ricky, you know, normally drove for Graham, and so when I get home, I was home about a week, and I think I was actually having a sleep on a Sunday afternoon again, and the phone goes, and it's Graham Pearson, and Graham rang me out of the blue. I'd never driven for Graham before, and he said, I've got a really nice 2-year-old filly. He said, he'd driven himself for 2 or 3 starts, he said, but it's time for the bigger race. He said, I want someone to drive for the season. He said, have you got anything? I said, no, I got nothing. I said, no, that'll be good, because I knew it went pretty good. So I hung up, and about 5 minutes later, it clicked on me. I thought, oh shit, I forgot about Sid Brown's horse. And I thought, what will I do? And I nearly rang Graham back and said, oh, I might have to drive this other one, but I thought I was a bit naughty, because they weren't going to clash for a little while. Sid's one was down south, and I thought, I'll just leave it and see what happens. And this, I've been in this situation 100 times, and it generally works itself out. And so I was lucky, because Sid's, you know, only won a couple of races, I think, minor races, and the other one was Undercover Lover.
My Hannah, perfect power. Here's Undercover Lover striding home. Natural Talker's trying to rally again. Gilbo and Love You, Lindy Lou coming from the back. Undercover Lover, perfect power. Gilbo in behind them. Tartan Lady looking to get through, but she's run into the traffic right on the back of Undercover Lover, which wins. Undercover Lover.
And what a filly she was, you know, through her 3-year-old campaign. She wasn't unbeatable, but she was pretty close.
Yeah, well, I think as a 3-year-old, she won every big race in New Zealand for 3-year-old fillies, except the Southland Oaks, which she didn't go in. And, you know, that's a pretty good record. And then she went to Aussie and won the New South Wales Oaks. She won the Eldorado. And she got beaten twice by Tailor-Made Lombo, who was a freak herself, and I think in the Queensland Oaks and the Victoria Oaks. And she only probably beat me because of the barrier draws. She drew the lead and I drew out the back row both times. And so I never really got a fair crack to beat her. But then we went to America, and, you know, she had an amazing stint over there as well.
The situation in control, 4 reels out by 2 to Miss Bubbles. Robin Blues flashing home, deeper out, that's a nice, but it's 4 reel. 4 reel, 2 good, has beaten Miss Bubbles, third photos.
Talking about both of those horses, For Real and Tribute though, the connections of both of those, long time association with your family.
Yeah. We'll start with For Real, like Sid Brown. We probably got to know Sid and Shona when Sid had Regal Light in the mid-70s when Pete drove him, and yeah, he was a really good horse. You know, he was a superstar, and I think Sid got friendly with our family then and become really good friends with Mum and Dad after that. And yeah, then he always trained a few, and yeah, as he started sending them up to us, and you know, as he said, right to today, the success goes on.
The breed's still going on, and Peter and Joan Cox.
Yeah, same thing. We got lucky with them because we'd never really trained for them. I think Colin Philippi trained for them mainly, Mike Austin, and they sent a horse called Greenwich down to Snow McClellan to race down there, and he won a few good races with him. Then Snow always used to stay at our place, so Snow brought Greenwich up and stayed with us, and I think he won a race or two, and then he left him with us for some reason, I don't know why, and so that's how we started with Peter Cox, and so yeah, we had a great association, and not only success but great fun.
Yeah,
we had some great trips, and you know Peter's passed away now, but Joan's still a bundle of fun, and we had so many laughs, you know, on our trips away, and you know, they'd have a win any race anywhere.
Didn't matter.
The morning tea was out on Monday morning. The morning teas were like a banquet, so. No, great people.
And right down the outside, Tribute with a big run. Here comes Tribute, it might be a boil over. It's on the outside, Tribute taking the lead. Getting up on the rail now is Classic Cullen with a great run, but it's Tribute down the outside in front. And Tribute, what a performance. Tribute steps up several grades.
Tribute was their best horse, but I remember Novander Wiz winning some good races.
Yep.
There was a few, wasn't there?
Yeah, they had a really good run with us for a long time, but as I said, no one deserved it more.
We're talking so much about on-track achievements, but being a father, your 2 children and the birth of those must have been, you know, lifetime highlights.
Yeah, well, that's right. You know, any father you know, it's changed your life, doesn't it? And now the kids have been great, you know, we've, you know, obviously very busy in their lives and their careers, but, you know, they've achieved a lot, and, you know, they had a great upbringing. You know, Karen did a great job bringing them up, but, you know, and a lot of sport. You know, Chris was into his rugby, and Kimberly got into the ponies and that sort of thing, netball. So yeah, we're just a typical New Zealand family that a lot of time outdoors, and they'd come down the stables, you know, from an early age.
Tell me about Anthony, and when Kimberly and Christopher were born, do you think he missed out on a fair bit of those early days with the kids because of his commitment to racing?
Definitely. Murray filled a lot of those gaps. The kids rose on the back of our trucks.
Yeah.
You know, they spent a lot of time at our place. Luckily, we lived next door, and so they were lucky with having a good grandfather that could help them out. But yes, he did. But he had to make it. You had to make a career in those days. You had to work hard. Still the same today.
You talk about Karen bringing them up. Do you regret the fact that you were away so much, and do you feel you missed out a little bit, and they probably conversely missed out as well?
Oh, definitely. You know, our lives, you know, it's just what we did. You know, racing come first. You know, and I've missed weddings. I missed Tim's wedding. I had to drive Blossom Lady in the, I didn't have to drive, but I drove her in the Victoria Cup. And yeah, I've missed, you know, family weddings, funerals, 21sts, everything. But no one seemed to take any notice. You know, that was just the way it was. Horses come first, especially the big races. But yeah, as I said, it's a hard life, you know, for the family, because we're away so often, and especially us. Like, we spent so much time in Aussie every summer, you know, for 20 years. You know, I'd quite often, you know, on a Friday I'd leave home at lunchtime, fly to Auckland, drive Auckland Friday night, over to Aussie Saturday, somewhere else Sunday, and get home Monday. You know, and you know, we'd be exhausted, but you know. But it was hard for the people at home too.
Chris, with the family heritage that you've got in your name, being involved in horses was pretty much always on the cards, wasn't it?
Yeah, didn't really have any other option. Yeah, earliest memories are probably at the stables.
What about that, and about the horses themselves? Is that what drew you to being involved? Is it the animal, or what else was involved in that?
I think it was just the thrill of it, especially when watching Dad win a lot of big races growing up. I think that was a big part of it.
What was your earliest race, or the biggest race one that you can remember and you thought, wow, that was pretty cool?
I guess watching Lyle Creek in Australia, probably one that sticks out was when he won the Australasian Trotters Champs off, I think, 50 metres. Yeah, that was probably one that really stuck in my mind.
And further out was Africa, but Lyle Creek, the freak in front with 100 to go. He's 7 or 8 metres clear of Sundon's Way. Another win coming up for Lyle Creek. What a performance, and what a horse. Lyle Creek, 5 metres. Second home.
What about your early memories of your dad and some of his achievements? What are some of those?
I think looking back on it now, growing up I didn't actually respect probably how good he was. I think I just grew up and it sort of seemed the norm, but I remember sort of going to sleepovers at school and making the parents get up at midnight and then turn trackside on and watch him in those Group 1s and that over in Australia.
What about some of his great driving wins? What makes AM Butt so cool under pressure?
I think, sort of as you said, it's his coolness under pressure that makes him so good. He makes his decisions and he sticks to it, and he knows every horse in the race and which one to be following and which one not to be, and what they're going to do in a race before sometimes the other drivers know what they're going to do.
So has it been a help, or in some ways a hindrance, to be Anthony Butt's daughter in terms of your own career?
It's definitely a help. Like I have him on speed dial to call before or after any race, with any horses, even ones he doesn't know even now. Like he doesn't know the formers in New Zealand as well nowadays, but he's the first person I call before and after races.
A Rock of Tara's out to try and gun down this favourite, who still has 2 lengths to spare on them. Savia Patrol in front by 2, he's got them covered. Win number 1 for Kimberly, down towards the line, and the hot favourites in.
Your first win was on Savia Patrol for cousin Mark. What was your dad's reaction? What are your memories of that?
To be honest, because it was down in Forbury and he was a very hot price favourite, I think all of us were that nervous, to be honest, that we didn't probably enjoy it as much as the second win. Ashton Trevor won at Addington, one of Tim's horses. So of course having the whole family there that day, I think that one was probably a little bit more special than at headquarters and having everyone there.
Astral Traveller leads 2 lengths, Lisa Marie P, and then St Pierre, and the next one is Millicent, but it's all Astral Traveller inside the 100-metre mark. It's starting to race clear, and Astral Traveller gets away from Lisa Marie P. Sundon's Comet gets home well. Astral Traveller beat Lisa Marie P and Sundon's Comet.
But he was pretty stoked.
Yeah, I think so. I think they had the camera on him after the races and he got the sunglasses over the eyes pretty quick.
He can get emotional at times, as we know.
It can do.
What about the first time you ever drove against her? Did you have a different attitude out there, or was that not part of Anthony Butt's makeup?
Oh no, you definitely change, and especially when they start off, like you're worried about them. You don't want them, you know, doing the wrong thing, and in the safety side of it. And no, you definitely, you know, keep an eye on them, sort of thing, more than you probably should. But as I said, as they get going and they drive more, and you drive more against them, that you know you don't worry so much. And but I think it's only natural that you have a little, you know, peep out the corner of your eye.
I remember when I started driving, I didn't actually drive against him a lot, and I sort of took notice of that. And then when we did start driving against each other, a couple of times I saw him looking around, seeing what I was doing and whatnot. But when you're out there, you're not family. You're focused on what you're doing.
You actually started your training career in Australia, of course. Now, what was your mindset behind that? Were there some challenges being Anthony Butt's son and you wanted to make your own way? Is that fair to say?
Possibly a little bit. It was more just circumstances. I went to Perth for basically, it was supposed to be 3 months in the winter, and I was getting too many drives over there to come back here for what most of the times would be a couple of drives a week.
And how successful was that stint over there?
Quite good. Driving probably didn't really take off that much, but I had a pretty good run once I started training a few of my own.
What was the first winner you had in Australia?
It was a horse called Ideal Art. He was just a battler, but he managed to win a couple of races.
Ideal Art is down the outside, emerging with a big run. It's Global Rush in front. Ideal Art and Homebush Hero are coming to it. Global Rush in front. Ideal Art storms up on the outside, hit the front and just won. Ideal Art, I think, tipped out.
And what about driving-wise? What was your first winner there? It was for David Murphy, was it not, who you were working for at the time?
Yeah, I went over there for a little bit, and he was on a horse called I Don't Share at Horsham. Beat Daryl Douglas by a nose when he was absolutely flying.
Driving about 400 winners a season, yeah, I remember that.
I Don't Share in front, rolled away from the inside, going for the inside run, our mate Marion. I Don't Share in front, our mate Marion, right up along the inside. I Don't Share, our mate Marion, they go to the post. I Don't Share, maybe a nose from our mate.
What was your dad's reaction to that, Chris?
He was pretty happy. He was always very supportive, always watched every race, and yeah, gave me a lot of help on what I was doing wrong and that sort of thing.
Yeah, what about instruction-wise? Did he sort of pre-race and post-race? Was he involved in both?
He was pretty good pre-race, and post-race he'd sort of tell me what I'd done wrong, that sort of thing.
You've always been a great analyst of the game. Is that something you still enjoy doing, and all the historical stuff? Because I know you've got a mind like a computer.
Yeah, I enjoy that sort of thing, and that's sort of something I learnt off Dad, was the preparation he put in for the big races.
Training success in New Zealand. First one here was driven by your sister.
Yep, yeah, that was pretty cool having her drive a winner for me.
Into the lead goes Baby Fern, back to the passing lane, Charlotte Grace, Zoe Rotten's followed it through, then Pollyanna Blue Chip, Justice Sip, and Dana Dynasty storming home down the other. Charlotte Grace is in front, Baby Fern trying to chop it down, Charlotte Grace hanging on, Charlotte Grace gets the first, Charlotte Grace beats...
A really special day for your dad too, I'm sure.
Yep, yeah, Mum and Dad were pretty happy that day.
Yeah, Chris is, you know, he's great. He's been around the world. He's, you know, had a lot of time, spent a couple of 6 months stints in, you know, France and Sweden with the trotters, and had some time in America with Nifty Norman. And yeah, he's had a great life. He's, you know, come to Aussie a couple of times, had, you know, 3 or 4 years in Perth. Went to Perth for Gary Hall, went for 3 months and stayed 3 or 4 years. So had a lot of luck to, you know, a lot of success over there. And so yeah, he's made his way back. He's actually working in the galloping stable early in the mornings for a few hours. He loves that. He's actually trained a couple of gallopers. So I'm trying to sort of coach him to come over here at some stage. I said the galloping money's pretty good over here. So, but no, he's doing really well, yeah.
And I always remember him as a young, you talk about you being a thinker and you analyse races, and his knowledge of not only racing but sport was just phenomenal. And he's not an easy kid to sit down and have a yarn to, but once you actually got him going, gee, he knows a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. Like, he's such a thinker, and as I said, he'll make a great trainer one day because he's had the experience overseas, and he thinks about what works and what doesn't, and he just needs the opportunities now and a few good horses. But it's funny you say that because I was home last week and went out for dinner with the kids, and something came up about European politics. And Chris reeled off something, what's wrong with this country, why it's not going as... And Kimberly came out and said, how do you know that shit? Like,
yeah.
That's what he's like. He's a really intelligent kid, so,
But quiet, by the same token.
He's quiet, and he's probably, sometimes in this game that can hold you back a bit, but no, he'll be right.
There's been some challenging times in your family, like when Tim got outed for 6 months and Anthony had to take over. He really stepped up when he became the trainer, didn't he? What do you think he brought to the training ranks at that stage? What was his greatest attributes?
Well, he could always train a horse, as I say, came through Dad. It was gutting when that happened to Tim. It was gutting. And it took a lot to rise again and get over it. People that have been in the same situation will realise what it was like. We didn't get over that for a long time. For Tim and his 4 children and family, it was just huge. But as I say, Anthony stepped up. He just took it in a stride and made, the stable keep going.
That suspension really hurt him, through no fault of his own. He got 6 months, and so that was a hard time for him, and we had to all step up to, get him through it and keep the business running as best we could, sort of thing. And so yeah, he was isolated. He wasn't allowed to, come to the stables, or they tried to kick him out of his house, So he was basically spent 6 months, looking at the wall, sort of thing. And so it's tough for him, but all the staff, we all stepped up and did the job and kept things running. But yeah, as I said, you lost some owners through it, and yeah, he probably took a long, I don't know if he's ever recovered from it really. And as I said, things were happening. He sold, he lost a few owners, and a couple of them died. As they do, they get older, and things change, and the young ones are coming through, and so yeah, his team had dwindled, and he'd lost a bit of motivation too. It really demoralised him.
Tim's success over the last 20 years is, outside of the Purdon dynasty, has been unrivalled on the Grand Circuit, would be fair to say. What makes him such a great conditioner and traveller of horses?
Yeah, well, it's definitely an art travelling, Greg. Yeah, I don't know, he just got better and better as a trainer. I remember when he started off, his horses were awful, they're awful to drive, and this is, he was a kid. But once he got better horses, you learn how to train, and he just got better and better stock, and I think we're a great team. We had different areas. I used to look after the gear, and Tim would look after the health and feeding and the soundness sort of issues, and would work together on the working them, the fitness sort of thing. So I think we complemented each other really good, and we were lucky with 2 of us. Like, if one of us was away, one would be at home. So it wasn't as if, the stable could still function at home, and there's always one of us away travelling with the horses. So it worked in really good that way too. So I think, but yeah, he's just got that art of, being able to get the best out of a horse, and especially being able to peak them for big races.
There was no greater example of Tim's astute training ability than his preparation of Mr. Feelgood, a pacer that faced his first ever standing start in the Shepparton Cup in order to qualify for the 2009 Hunter Cup.
The Hunter Cup's been great for you, hasn't it? It's a bit like the Dominion has been in trotting in New Zealand for you. Your record in the Hunter Cup is, well, it's unrivalled winning New Zealander, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, it's been a race we've always targeted, and I think it suited the New Zealand horses because they've had a great preparation through the New Zealand Cup, through the spring, and used to the standing starts, used to the long distances, and we tried to target the right horse. You need a good standing start horse back then, and and we got lucky. A lot of them were not the best horses. I think I've won 7, and only one of them's been favourite. So just the right horse at the right time in the right race, and having a bit of luck.
Here's Mr. DG with a run coming home. Just an excuse is gone, and Mr. DG swept up to hit the lead. Mr. DG drew clear, running on late Wally Walton, Montdenver Gold, but Mr. DG in front. Montdenver Gold flies, but Mr. DG has taken out the Hancock Tyres AG Hunter Cup. And
Stunning Cullen was one of those, but he was a good horse. He'd won the Sire Stakes, he'd won the Northern Derby, and he was very good winning the Hunter Cup. And of course, Terry McDonald went on to have another pretty good horse, and Terry Love, but he had been a good owner.
Yep, Terry was good, and he said he started with us pretty early days. Just he always had them with Graham Court, obviously, but always had 1 or 2 with us and prepared to spend a bit of money. But we had a lot of luck with them too. Like, I think one of the first horse we bought was 2 Herbs, who I think
He's a good horse, wasn't he?
Yeah, real good horse. It was a shame he ended up breaking down and having to put him down. But yeah, I think he won the Welcome Stakes his very first start, and then he won the Easter Cup later on. So yeah, he's a good horse. And then yeah, Sunny Cullen come along. Tim bought him off Nigel.
Was Eddie Griffin? Was he the other guy on him?
Yep. And then Tim bought him off Nigel. Nigel, liked him, and they paid a bit of money for him. But he won. I think he won for his first start. I think Steve McNally drove him first up. I was in Auckland, and so I think the second start he won the sales race. So yeah, and it was a shame. He's fast, probably the fastest horse I've ever driven, like for just sheer speed and acceleration. But he had wind problems. He could pull a bit at times, and when he did, he couldn't cope with it, and so he was a little bit awkward to drive. He had to sort of manage him, and but yeah, he was. He said he had a great 3-year-old year, won the Great Northern Derby from the outside of the back row and just circled them and bolted in, won the Size Stakes final, sales race. And then I think he had a wind up or 2. And then he said come back and won the handicap.
4 deep on the track, Stunning Cullen. I'm the Mighty Quinn, the widest runner. Turning out, Chain of Command led. Smiling Shard, Stunning Cullen. I'm the Mighty Quinn out wider. Stunning Cullen hit the lead. Stunning Cullen in front of Smiling Shard, and Stunning Cullen, the New Zealander, wins the cup. Stunning Cullen beats Smiling Shard.
Well, all hail the Kiwi. What a team they are, Anthony and Tim Butt.
And we might have to start calling the Butts the kings of the Hunter Cup, because they've got a great history with this race. For Anthony and Tim Butt, it's a race they've just about made their own.
It's Vulcan in front. Ginger Gal's a half a length away. Vulcan kicking. Ginger Gal ahead away. He had to be good. He was great. Vulcan won it.
Vulcan, not big in stature, not the flashiest looking trotter you've ever driven, but a record that suggests he was outstanding.
Yeah, he's a great little horse. He won 2 jewels. People forget that he won as a 3-year-old at Cambridge, and then come back and massive performance to win at 4 at Ashburn. He was never on the track, and I think the next year he had a bit of luck. He won the free for all on Cup Day. Maurice McKendry was nearly going to beat me with one of Sean McCaffrey's, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
And he galloped halfway.
Sovereignty.
Yeah.
Was it? Yep.
He galloped halfway up the straight, and I won.
Yeah, it was a great time. We bred him, and we only went to Earl because Anthony and Tim had Mountbatten at the time, and he was a lovely trotter, won the Dominion. So I thought, we'll just try Earl. Well, he had problems all his life. If he hadn't had his back problems, he'd have been super. But he never got the accolades that he actually deserved. But he won all the big races, first Super Stars and everything, Southern Stars.
Vulcan moved up to hit the lead from Sovereignty. My High Expectations, Bridget Cahor give chase with Elegant Image, but it's all Vulcan. Vulcan spares away. This is a trotter in super form, and Vulcan has won easily from Elegant Image, My High Expectations.
And what about winning the Dominion? How cool was that?
Well, that was really cool because it was unexpected. We nominated for him to run the junior race on the first day, and the noms come out and they were extended. So I ringed him and I said, hey, they should have noms for the free-for-all. How about, what do you think you start? He said, you ring Anthony then, you talk about with him. So I knew what Anthony would say. He's always a go for it. So he said, yeah, why not? So we did, and he won the first day. So that was unbelievable. So then, of course, the Dominion was always on the cards, and we started in the Dominion, and he just hacked away and hacked away. It was a cool drive. And it was unreal.
Vulcan through now from I Can Do's It. Dr. Hook leads, 1:25 to go. Margin 2, Vulcan. Then Cloverdon, I Can Do's It. Dr. Hook in front. Vulcan's getting close. It's Vulcan going after Dr. Hook, who's still just in front. Vulcan dives. Vulcan won the Dominion. It's a Group 1 double for Vulcan. He has beaten Dr. Hook and Cloverdon.
Personally, they were going to change too, a massive change. Your wife, Karen, of I'm not going to say how many years because that would be unfair to her probably. That was about to change as well.
Yeah. As you said, that marriage ended, and that was tough. But yeah, all things were happening. A lot was happening at the same time, sort of thing. And it was like a perfect storm really to move to Aussie.
Which is something that, when did it come on the radar? When was that first, well, I might just head over there, I've had such great success.
Yeah,
when did that happen?
Well, it didn't come overnight, and there's always something sort of I would have liked to have done and never in a position to, because you've got your family and always got good horses in New Zealand to drive, and there's always something I would have loved to have done, but as I said, the circumstances were never right, and when all these things were happening, and I wasn't getting many drives, and as I said, I was single, got single, and had no ties. The kids were off my hands, so they were working, and they were looking after themselves, sort of thing. So, yeah, and then a couple of people sort of spoke to me about it, and said it'd be a good move. And Brent Lilly, I'd always sort of had a good relationship with him, and he'd always said, if you want to come over, there's plenty of drives there. And actually Gareth Hall, from Sky, he was one too. He got on the phone a couple of times. He said, "Oh, you should come to Aussie. There's plenty of opportunities." And yeah, it just all happened at once. That it was just the right thing to do. I had nothing to lose.
So Anthony moves over there. Now Tim's moved over, and almost as quickly things have turned to gold again.
I hate him being there.
You miss him?
Yeah, very much so. I miss the kids, the 4 kids. But that's life. They've got to take a step. And he has stepped up big time, hasn't he?
Soho Tribeca gives anything for love to go by. Jillaby Kung Fu Tiger Tara. And here's my Field Marshal winding up from the back of the field. It's Soho Tribeca. Jillaby Kung Fu. Over the top is my Field Marshal. Soho Tribeca. My Field Marshal. And it's going to be my Field Marshal on the line. Grand victory.
What struck you more? The fact that you just won the Miracle Mile, or when they read out 146.9?
Yeah, that was pretty amazing because I knew we were going, and I thought we would before the race because I knew Greg wouldn't wait for Lazarus to get round. So that's a time. It's world class. Like, we're up with the Americans now, or even maybe better. But it's pretty special to be the fastest man in Southern Hemisphere.
Southern Hemisphere, yeah. And your new partner, well, not so much new these days, Sonia Smith, she's taken out a trainer's licence, and between you, and I know you're away driving a lot, you've had good success.
Yeah, it was something that sort of started out of the blue, something we hadn't planned on, and got offered a horse, and thought, we may as well have a train it ourselves, and Son got a licence, and away we went. I think it was Harry McCleary, little Mr. Harry McCleary, and so I think we won 100,000 with him, and then got snowballed, got offered other horses, and had really good success with the Kiwis. Obviously, a lot of mates that come over and stay with us, and they've left their horses here, so it's been great.
So your licence in Australia was probably something that was never going to happen in New Zealand. Is that fair to say?
Not really. Well, when Anthony came over here, I came over and I didn't really know what I was going to do with myself. I've got a few job offers and that, but I didn't really want to work for another stable after a working thing, and so we decided to try a few for our own, and we've just, we're going really well.
It started out with just doing a few, not breakers, but jogging them up a few for the likes of Andy Gaff.
Andy and Kate helped me out a bit at the start. They gave me a few to jog up while Ants was at Brent's, Lily's, and in the mornings, so that kept me busy, and yeah.
And it sort of evolved from there. You started getting offered some horses.
Yeah,
and
we got offered. I think Shane Tritton rang Ants up and got offered Mr. Harry McCleary, he's my favourite. He's from New Zealand, and he wasn't really handling Menangle, so he came over and he won my first Metropolitan race.
It's right in front, Mr. Harry McCleary peeling out to come around it now, and further out is Indy Bapu. In the straight, it's right, Mr. Harry McCleary's after it. Mr. Harry McCleary hit the lead from right, Indy Bapu late, but Mr. Harry McCleary gets home and beats Indy Bapu and right, then Jean's Majesty.
Now Anthony's done well in Melbourne, but I get the feeling there's a bit of an itch there potentially that these boys might team up again in some respects when the new season kicks off in Sydney. So the old firm, even though they still link together in the big races now, may well be a bit
Yeah,
closer.
it's hard to know. It's hard to know. Anthony's got a nice life where he is. He's got the green grass and the paddocks, but the only thing in Victoria is the driving. Like, he'll go to 2 race meetings, it's hours and hours. Tim's is more stereotype in Menangle. You go to Penrith or Bathurst or Menangle. So I don't know really. It could be in the pipeline. I mean, they could end up. I mean, they like doing things, don't they, together? They seem to be able to train and drive and work out the big races.
They've been pretty
and
successful.
they've been pretty good at it.
Yeah. Anthony, the shift from Melton to Menangle, talk me through the mindset around that.
Yeah, something I've had in the back of my mind for a while, Greg, and you know, basically it was a lifestyle decision. You know, I love my time in Victoria, and but it's just so busy. You know, racing 7 days a week, and you know, a lot of travelling. Got to go everywhere, and it's every day, and just sort of gets on top of you after a while. And you know, I had 4 years of it, and you know, loved every day of it. But you know, Menangle offers so many great opportunities, and the money's great, and you know, racing a couple of times a week. You know, a couple of 100 yards from home, so.
Sonia had really established herself there as a trainer. How's that going to work over here?
Yeah, we hope to continue the same way. We've got half a barn with, Tim's got a barn and a half now, and we've got the other half of one of his, and so we're going to continue to train, you know, up to, you know, 8 or 10 horses. So yeah, we've hopefully just carries on the same.
What about the opportunities with Tim? Are we talking about the old days, the Premier Stables? Is that how you think it'll unfold?
Oh, I don't know about that. You know, we had such a great run for so long, but yeah, no, Tim's pretty keen for me to drive a fair few of them, and he's got Chris Geary there too. He's a great young driver, and he's doing a really good job, so he'll continue to drive some. So yeah, you know, Chris will definitely get the trips at 3 or 4 hours away anyway.
Do you see yourself as a bit of a mentor for him as well? Is that going to be part of the process, or is that not really being discussed yet?
Oh no, you know, I'm like that with any of the young drivers. Always happy to help, and Chris is a great guy. He's going good, you know, in his own right. So, but yeah, we talk about things, and you know, he gives me advice on how to drive them if I haven't driven them, and vice versa. So, yeah, no, it's all working out good.
Back in Christchurch, driving in New Zealand Cup week, what's changed?
Oh yeah, it's definitely different. Definitely harder to win. Mark Burden seems to, you know, they're hard to beat at the moment. So no, but it's a great week. We love coming, and you know, get to see a lot of people you don't see, you know, only see once a year. And you know, it's great driving a Cup days. You know, it's probably the biggest harness meeting in the world, probably. And no, I love it.
Takes fly, racing. Gill favourite trotted himself roughly into the lead, and he's going to hold up. Speedy Command began okay. Young Strangers had a gallop.
Huge thrill for you too, driving against your son Chris, and he nearly tore it off with about a $90 shot in Theodosia, of course the breed that you've had such great success with.
Yeah, mum's breed, mum's horse. That was great. I was in front and keen to stay there, but he come looking and looked like me in the old days.
The leader is Speedy Command. Theodosia works up on the outside, and Theodosia is going to take over now. Speedy Command is going to trail, so Son leads farther midway down the back with Chris in front of Anthony.
Going to the front, but no, he went great. He looked as though he had it one half up the straight and just got collared late, so that was a big thrill.
The leader is Theodosia, 150 to go. Margin 2 lengths on King's Landing, the only danger. Theodosia's a length in front. King's Landing's coming too quickly though. Favourite ranged up alongside, and King's Landing is going to be too good. Chief of Staff nailed Theodosia for second.
Change in lifestyle for him. Were you surprised by his initial success over there? Because he had to A, break in, but B, you know, to drive his number of winners that he did in the first couple of seasons was quite staggering.
It was, but I don't think it really came as a surprise. Like, he had sort of spent sort of good few months there every year for as long as I can remember, so it wasn't a whole new experience for him, but settling in there full time would have definitely been a big challenge.
And he's still got plenty ahead of him as well. He's not retiring anytime soon from what I can see.
No, he seems to be picking up more and more, and he hasn't seemed to age or be looking like slowing down anytime soon.
Your dad's driving success continues on. What makes him such a great driver?
I think just his ability to read a race, probably also his ability to adjust to wherever he's driving. I mean, he's got a lot of respect in Australia for the way he can turn up in basically any state and compete with their top drivers.
Anthony, it was a significant move from Christchurch to Melbourne, now Melbourne to Sydney. Is this going to be it, do you think?
Well, as I said, I'm closer to the end of the career than the start of it, but yeah, as I said, it's a lifestyle thing, Greg. I had a great time in Melbourne. It was really good to go over there with nothing really, and I think I drove, in 4 years, well over 400 winners and 20 Group 1s, so really had a good time there. But as I said, I'm not getting younger and getting on the road every day and every night, getting home at midnight, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights. It's hard work. So, I think it was a lifestyle thing more than anything. But, once Tim shifted there too, it made a lot of sense.
Your father's probably sitting up there with a whiskey and milk, having a yarn to Wes. What do you reckon they'd make of the success, in particular, of Anthony Butt?
They would have loved it. They would have absolutely. Dad saw a lot of it. They both saw a lot of the success. They were lucky. They lived, to 80 years old, and they did see the success. But Dad would have had more than one whiskey.